I'm going to make an educated guess here and say that you became a manager because you were good at your job. You got results, solved problems, and probably made things look easy. So naturally someone tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, you should lead a team. At first, it feels like a step up. And it is. But what nobody really explains is that you're not doing more of what made you successful anymore. You're doing something completely different. My name is Marcel. I'm a chartered manager and I've been managing teams and projects for more than 2 decades. In that time, I noticed there is one thing that all new managers, and that includes myself, get consistently wrong, and it has a potential to kill their careers. Today, we're going to discuss this simple, fatal mistake and how to very easily fix it and become a leader. What you have to realize when you are promoted is that you're no longer the one winning the game. You're coaching the team, and that's a whole new sport. But here's where it gets messy. You see things breaking. You see people spinning out. You see decisions being made slower, work coming back with mistakes, with timeline slipping, and the temptation kicks in. I'll just fix it. I know it feels faster, cleaner, and in control. But there is the uncomfortable bit here. Your job is not to fix everything. And if you try, you're going to hit a wall, and you're going to hit it hard. Not just because it's unsustainable, but because you'll end up with a team that is underdeveloped, disengaged, and quietly resentful. And worst of all, you'll still feel like you're failing because you're exhausted and nothing seems to improve. I want to walk you through that mindset and its cost, and how to shift out of it, and how to lead with clarity instead of control. Let's think, why does this happen? Why do we, especially new managers, default to being the fixer? There are a few reasons, and they are actually all really human. Number one, it's your comfort zone. You got promoted because you were really good at solving problems, and the workplace actually rewards those who do, the people who get things done. So it's natural to lean back into that skill set. You get a dopamine hit every time you swoop in and save the day. And honestly, well, it feels like leadership. You're there in trenches, you're helping, you're present. Isn't that what a good manager does? Number two, you don't want to let your team fall. And this one hits deep. Maybe you're a high achiever, maybe you take pride in team output. So when you see something not happening the right way, when you see someone struggling, you feel the responsibility, this little tug, to jump in and rescue the situation before it reflects badly on them and on you. But in trying to shield your team from failure, you accidentally block the growth. Mistakes are how people learn. If you never let people mess up, they'll never level up. But watching someone struggle to do things you know already can be hard. I understand that. Number three, you think it's faster. Let's not sugarcoat it. Coaching takes time, delegation takes time, giving feedback takes a lot of time, and you've got a million things on your plate. So instead of investing 10 minutes teaching someone, you spend 2 minutes doing it yourself. To realize the fallacy of this thinking, you only need to do a short mental exercise. Multiply that by 10 tasks a week across 5 people, and suddenly you're drowning. You thought you were being efficient, but all you did was build a system that collapses the second you go on holiday. Number 4, it feeds your ego. I said it. Being the one with all the answers makes you feel valuable, needed, and important, like they'll be lost without me. But let's flip that. If your team would be lost without you, is that really a flex? Or is it a sign of weak leadership? Here's the paradox. The more you fix, the more broken things become. The more you save, the less your team learns to swim. And that's where the spiral begins. You start to have fixed everything because nobody else has the muscle to do it. You become the bottleneck, the burnout risk, the person who's so involved that nothing moves without you. If it sounds familiar, don't worry, we're going to break that cycle, starting with understanding what your job actually is as a manager. So let's talk about what this fixer mindset actually costs you and your team. This is all based on my personal experience, so don't think I'm preaching here. I'm sharing my learning curve of what it was like to have fixer mindset. On the surface, it felt productive. I was fixing problems with things moving off the to-do list quite quickly. I was in the loop and I was riding the high. But under the surface, I was slowly creating a system that breaks under pressure. Now let me show you how this plays out. You become the bottleneck. You're trying to help, but instead you're positioned yourself as the hub through which all decisions must pass. Which means your team is constantly waiting on you to move forward. You don't just slow things down, you stall them entirely. Even minor tasks get blocked because people are scared to act. without your go-ahead. Suddenly, you're checking slides, you're reviewing Slack threads, you're rewriting emails, and you think, why is everyone so dependent on me? They're not. You made them that way. You've built a system where initiative is punished, not rewarded, where every problem is escalated because that's what you trained them to do. You burn yourself out. I'm going to call it what it is. It's exhausting. You're in meetings all day. You're answering questions during your lunch breaks. You're messaging until 7 at night because someone just needs a quick sanity check. You are always on, always available, always low-key frustrated because you're doing the work of 3 people and still feel behind. But here's the kicker. You can't say no because you haven't built a team that can operate without you. So you tell yourself it's just a busy season, except it's always a busy season. There's a misconception about burnout that it hits like a truck. It does, but not because it travels like it. It sneaks in like fog. And by the time you realize it's killing your creativity, your motivation, and your sense of purpose, it's already taken over. You disempower your team. Let's say someone on your team is struggling. They come to you, unsure how to proceed. Now, you have 2 options. Option A, here, let me take care of it. Option B, let's work through it together. What do you think your next step should be? Option A feels like support, but it's actually a confidence killer. Every time you fix a problem for someone, instead of with them, you're silently saying, I don't believe you can handle it. You stunt their development. Here's the wild part. Most people actually want to grow. They want to get better. They want to take on more. But growth requires friction. It requires discomfort. It requires sitting in a problem and working through it. And again, I know how impossible this may feel to you emotionally. But if you keep rescuing people from the learning process, they will never level up. They stay stuck in junior mode, even if they've been on your team for years. And when promotion time comes, you realize there's no one ready. The painful truth is, because you've been doing all the learning for them, you start resenting the people you're supposed to support. This one is harsh, but real. You start to get annoyed. Why is everyone so hopeless? Why can't we just figure it out? So let's again flip it. You've created the system. You've kept them in the dark. You've trained them to depend on you. And now you're angry about the monster that you built. That resentment creeps into your tone. Your one-on-ones feel impatient. You stop coaching and start criticizing. You feel disconnected from your team. It's not just about workflow anymore. It's about your relationship with your people. You stop doing your job. I think this one stings the most. When you're in a fixer mode 24/7, you neglect the actual responsibilities of a manager, which is setting direction, prioritizing work, coaching, team, and aligning with the leadership. Instead, you're in the weeds, in the tools, in the details. And eventually, someone will notice that you're not operating on the level that you're paid for. You'll start to hear feedback like, great team player, but needs to think more strategically, and that hurts. And now you're overworked and under-recognized. You're trapped in the middle. Welcome to the fixers paradox. Alright, let's pause. If any of this hits a little too close to home, you're not alone. Most managers go through this phase. The problem isn't you. The problem is staying there. So how do we break out of it? If your job isn't to fix everything, then what is it? Because we've all seen that manager who steps back a little too far and becomes totally useless. You know, the one that never is in the loop, gives vague feedback and shows up only to ask for updates? You don't want to be that person either. So let's break it down. Your job is to set the direction. This means defining goals, clarifying priorities, saying no to distractions, drawing the line between nice to have and mission critical. You'd be surprised how many teams are stuck in chaos because their manager hasn't clearly answered one question. What are we trying to achieve? If your team doesn't know the destination, don't be shocked when they try to keep changing routes every single day. Our job as managers is to build a machine, not to be the engine, not to push every part along ourselves. Think of your team like a system. Your role is to design the workflow, the communication habits, the check-ins, and the culture that allows the system to function smoothly, without you needing to personally spin every single gear. You need to ask yourself questions. Are expectations clear? Does everyone know who owns what? Do your one-on-ones feel like coaching or just status update? Does your team understand how their work connects to the bigger picture? Here's the important bit. If the machine is breaking down, your job isn't to grab a wrench and fix it. It's to redesign the system so it runs better next time. Your job is to remove obstacles, but strategically. Notice I didn't say put out every fire. Some problems are yours to solve, most are not. Your job is to step in when something or someone is blocking progress that your team can't remove themselves, whether it's an organizational barrier, a cross-team conflict, or unclear priorities from leadership. But you don't run around solving every friction yourself. You help your team learn how to navigate challenges themselves. That means you'll often say things like, what have you tried so far? What's the actual blocker here? Is that a one-time issue, or are we talking system problem? Our job as managers is to train teams to think like owners, not just executors. Manager's job is to see around the corner. While your team is focused on execution, your head should be above the weeds. You're thinking about risks, upcoming challenges, team capacity, succession planning, alignment with business goals. You're the one who's supposed to see what's coming and prep your team accordingly. That's why you can't be stuck in the weeds all day. If you're too busy redoing someone's deck, you're not thinking 6 months ahead, 12 months ahead. And that's the kind of thing that sinks teams. Your job is also to scale yourself. This one's subtle but powerful. A great manager is someone whose impact ripples. If you disappear for a week, your team doesn't crumble. They function, they make decisions, they grow because you invested your time building capability, not dependence. That's the goal. Your job is not to make yourself irreplaceable. Your job is to build a team that thrives even when you're not there. That's the difference between a busy manager and a true leader. Okay, that was a big mindset shift. In the next section, we'll get super practical. How do you start letting go of the fixer role? Alright, now for the golden question. How do I stop being the fixer without the whole thing falling apart? There are a few simple tactics to move from fixing everything to coaching. Ask before you act. This one is deceptively simple. When someone brings you a problem, don't jump to solution. Ask, what do you think we should do? Then pause, let the silence fill the space. Give them space to wrestle with it. Even if they don't nail it, they're building their decision-making muscle. Other great questions are, what options have you considered? What's the worst case scenario if you make the call? What support do you need from me? The goal is to resist the urge to answer and instead turn the spotlight back on them. Ownership, ownership, ownership. If everything is shared, then nothing is owned. You can't expect accountability if people don't know what is truly theirs. Try saying, hey, I want you to fully own this project. That means making the decisions, driving timelines, and looping me in when you hit blockers, not waiting for me to steer. And then, and here's the key, let them do it. Don't hover. Don't jump in when things look messy. Trust is visible through your actions, not your words. Set expectations, not instructions. Micromanagement sneaks in when you confuse control with clarity. As a manager, your job is to be obsessively clear about drawing clear vision. What success looks like, when it's due, what constraints or priorities matter most. But after that, let people figure out how. I'll give you an example. Instead of saying, use this template, write it like this, include these 3 points, say, I need a summary deck that clearly shows the problem, proposed solutions, and business impact. Make sure it's exec ready by Friday. Boom. Clear outcome, no micromanagement. Trust the what will drive better how. As long as the outcome is non-negotiable. Use the coach don't catch rule. Your team stumbles. Someone drops on the ball, what do? The old you swoops in and catches it. The new you coaches them to pick up and carry it forward. Now this may sound like, let's walk through what went wrong. What would you do differently next time? What was missing from your process here? Where did you feel stuck and why? You're building resilience, pattern recognition, and strategic thinking. They won't just avoid this mistake, they'll start spotting others before they happen. There is a hack I use here often with really good results. Use scripts to set boundaries. A lot of managers fall into the fixer mode because they don't know how to say no or delegate well. So here are a few phrases to keep in your back pocket. I trust you to take the lead on this. Let me know what you decide. Let's use this as a coaching moment. What's your thinking so far? Okay, I'm stepping back from this one and you can drive. I'm here if you get stuck. Say them often enough and your team will start believing them as well as will you. The bottom line, you don't just need to stop fixing. You need to build the habits and systems that make fixing unnecessary. That's how you create a team that owns the work, grows consistently, and doesn't need you to hover like a helicopter boss. Now, let's talk about the good stuff. What happens when you actually pull all of this that we discussed about off? Okay, so you started pulling back. You're coaching instead of correcting. You're letting go of the wheel. It is uncomfortable, but you're holding the line. What does success actually look like on the other side? Spoiler, it is not perfection. Things still get messy. People still make mistakes, but the feel of your team starts to shift. And that's when you know it's working. Let's walk through what changes when you stop fixing everything and start leading intentionally. Your team becomes more confident. One day, someone comes to you with a tough situation. Instead of asking, what should I do? They say, here's what I'm thinking. Does that make sense? That's the moment you realize they're thinking like an owner. And confidence compounds. When one person starts leveling up, others take notice. Suddenly, you've got a whole team full of people thinking 3 steps ahead instead of waiting for you to be told what to do. The biggest benefit I think that I noticed personally is I gained back time, energy and focus. And this one was immediate. As soon as you stop grabbing every problem by the horns, you realize how much time you were bleeding out. You start to think again about strategy, about growth, about your own development. You're no longer sprinting from fire to fire, fighting all of them. You're operating with clarity. And here's the kicker. The less reactive you are, the more your team trusts you. Why? Because you show up grounded, intentional, not panicked and overextended. Good leadership energy is contagious, and now you've got it back. Another one that is really pleasant is people bring you solutions, not just problems. And this one works like magic. Instead of messages like, hey, we've got a problem with the client, you get a message that sounds more or less along the line, here's the issue, there are 2 ways we could solve it. I'm leaning towards option A unless you see it as a risk that I missed. That's what happens when you shift from fixer to multiplier. Your team starts to mirror your thinking. They anticipate, they analyze, they take initiative. And now your role becomes guiding, not doing. You're not the mechanic anymore, you're the architect. You also create space for real development. When you stop fixing, your team gets more room to stretch, to experiment, to stumble and recover. You see junior folks steps up in a way that you would never expect. You watch peers you once babysat start owning entire streams of work, and eventually you'll have people ready for promotion. People who could lead teams of their own. People who grow because you created an environment where growth wasn't just allowed, it was expected. You're not building a team that works, you're building a team that grows. Now that is a leadership. Lastly, you become the kind of manager everyone wants, and let's be blunt, the bar for management is low. Plenty of managers get by just reacting to whatever is loudest. They fix, they scramble, they survive, but when you lead like this, calm, clear, empowering style, well then you stand out. Your team starts advocating for you, other teams notice your results, and your leaders see a system that works even when you're not in the room. And over time, that starts to open doors. You get bigger teams, you get more autonomy, you gain executive trust, and your career grows without the burnout. Eventually, you stop being seen as the person who gets things done and start being seen as the person who builds teams that get things done. Now that is leverage. That's how you scale your impact. So yeah, the hardest truth is you may have to give up being the hero, but what you get in return is so much more powerful. You get to be the person who creates other heroes, and that is the job, isn't it? Right, let's bring it all home. If you've ever felt like you're the glue holding everything together, constantly jumping in, constantly exhausted, here's what I want you to hear. That doesn't make you a bad manager. It makes you a human one. One who cares. One who wants to do right by their team. But caring doesn't mean controlling. And fixing everything? Well, that's just a fast track to burnout for you and for them. Your real job, the one that actually moves the needle, is to build a team that can operate, grow and thrive without you hovering. That's not easy, but it is possible. And the first step is awareness. Start noticing where you're not stepping in too quickly. Start practicing those coaching questions. Start holding your own boundaries like they matter. because they really do. You're not here to fix everything. You're here to build something that doesn't need fixing every 5 minutes. That's what leadership looks like. Your challenge for this week: pick one recurring problem you usually fix. Just one. And the next time it shows up, don't touch it. Coach, delegate, ask questions, let it play out, and see what happens. And if it blows up, great. You've just found the gap that you can teach through and not just patch over. If this video hit home for you, I'd love to hear about this. Drop a comment and tell me what's one thing you're going to stop fixing this week. Also, if you're trying to get better at this leadership stuff, not just the fluffy TED Talks, but the real life, messy, gritty, tactical kind, subscribe. I've got more things coming. Because being a great manager isn't about being perfect. It's about growing on purpose. And you're doing that right now. I'll catch you in the next one.